Hey, everyone. Thank you for joining us and welcome back to another episode of A Few Short Minutes, the pod. Today we have Stacey Johnson, and it's another Stacey, which is a rare occurrence in my life. It's usually the CY, followed sometimes an IE, but they're the weird ones. So the EY is like the proper way. So I'm super excited to have her on, and it's her first podcast, you guys. I'm so honored. That's so exciting. So let me tell you about her and why she's here. She is a mom of two beautiful daughters and a widow of 2 years. She loves being outdoors, and she's a therapist for over 20 years in the state of Ohio. She's a women's empowerment coach, CEO and founder of Stacey Johnson Coaching. She offers a coaching program that empowers working women to thrive beyond anxiety. She offers teaching from her anti-anxiety blueprint that teaches women to overcome anxiety, overthinking, sleep deprivation, headaches, muscle tension, and reclaim their presence, in their personal and professional life. And she's a specialist in EFT, which I know if my therapist ever sees this, she's going to be like, I've been telling you for 9 years to tap. And I have been so resistant to it. I don't even know why. I know it works. I love me some Brad Yates and some what's the brother and sister? Jessica. Sister's name's Jessica. Brother's name's something else. I love their content. I think their words are powerful. I don't know why I'm resistant to it. So that's interesting. Maybe we could explore that. How did you incorporate coaching? You've been a therapist for 20 years, but you're kind of newer into the coaching realm. What caused that addition?
So, after my husband passed, unfortunately, I had two significant losses back to back. I had my stepfather pass, and then 3.5 weeks later, my husband passed.
That's no time.
Yeah. And so at that time, when I went back to work, I ended up having more responsibilities at work. I worked in an alternative school, and just because educational world, things are, kind of wonky, and staffing is an issue. And so I was on a van longer, or, in the mornings and in the evenings. So my days were lasting longer, and it was harder to be available to my mom, who might need me because of her being alone now. And then even though my girls were adults, they still needed me at home. And so working 12-hour days and not being able to have the time off that they might need me for, I decided that, I want to be available more. So what can I do out of my home? But then I also started to realize that because I was working in the school, and then I started to do some more telehealth, and I was recognizing that there were so many women that are dealing with anxiety, that what can I do that can go beyond Ohio? Because in telehealth, I can only do what's in the state of Ohio. So what can I do to go beyond Ohio? And that is in coaching. Coaching, I can go beyond the state lines. And so that's why I looked into what can I do? How can I take my knowledge and reach more than just this little pocket? So that's how I started my coaching program.
That's fantastic. That's beautiful. And yeah, taking it beyond your licensure and the reciprocity states, if there are any. I love that I can speak to a woman in Denmark and help her.
Right.
I think it's amazing in this day and age with technology. It blows my mind. So I coach coaches as a side gig, and it's amazing when I speak to somebody in Singapore or Australia or New Zealand, and it's just like, wow, we are so much more connected than we ever were previously. I would have never known these people existed. And it's not something you can do through a letter, right?
Yeah.
We used to have pen pals. But yeah, it's fascinating. And so I love that you made that connection. You're like, I need to help more people and I need to help myself,
Right.
help myself, help my daughters. And two significant losses within less of a month. I can only imagine how dysregulated your nervous system was.
Yeah. And,
Oh,
so I mean, at that time, I also had used a lot of the things that I had learned throughout the years of, all the trainings that I've had, plus helping other anxious women. I kind of started using some of the tools. I connected with a grief coach, did a little bit of work, and then started to regulate my system and realize that, yeah, I can do this. And I think working with that grief coach who lived in a different state, I recognize that, yeah, I can do this. And why not try? It was a scary thing to leave your W-2 position for 20
yes, it
years.
is.
I was there for 20 years. Plus I did, so I was a supervisor to an alternative school and then did a little bit of either between telehealth or I worked in crisis centers, as a part-time, just to bring in extra income because we had lost, prior to my husband passing, he was self-employed construction. And so that construction world went up and down, up and down. And so I was always using my licensure in some capacity. And then after he passed away, I needed to bring in more income. And so that's when I started I was working 12-hour days at the school and then, doing another 10 to 15 during the week here or there with telehealth. And I was like, one, I need to start, I can help so many more people. And then, what ways can I just expand my knowledge?
Yeah. And in what ways can I not burn out?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Right.
can I deal with the burnout that I'm experiencing? Because I'm sure after you lose two people that are important in your life, and then you're working 12-hour days and trying to grieve and then the 10 to 15 hours, there is literally no space for you.
Right.
There's no space for you
Right.
at all to regulate, to grieve, to move through the process. It is literal fight or flight.
Right.
For however long. And for those of you that don't know and you guys watching found me for the first time, I lost my baby brother to unaliving himself almost 8 years ago. And, I took off 2 weeks and I had to go home. And obviously, and then I came back and then it was go, go, go,
Mm-hmm.
go, go, go. And that is not sustainable. And so I crashed and burned
Mm-hmm.
for about 2 years. For about 2 years, I crashed and burned. And then that meant I didn't get out of bed. And that meant I ended up on antidepressants. And that meant, it meant a whole host of things. And now what I'm present to at that time, and I did it again this summer, is burnout and adrenal fatigue and what you actually do to the hormones in your body. That if you are not nice to your body's like, we're done.
Right.
We're done. It doesn't matter if you sleep 10 hours, you're tired, you're exhausted, there's no energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I don't want to go back there. I don't ever. Listen, we are here for the soft girl life, my friends. Now we are not go go go. I'm not boss babing any longer. I boss babed too close to the sun and it burned. So no, thank you.
Yeah.
I'd just rather just be,
Right.
just be. And I'm sure it was hard to do that after go, 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 go. How did you kind of start making that switch? Because what I know to be true is after I gave up, go, 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 I would be home and I'd go, oh, I should be doing something. Look at you. You're so lazy. Get up, move, do something. And I just beat the crap out of myself because I was so used to go, go, go. So
Right.
how have you made that transition?
Well, I feel like I'm still going because I'm still creating content and making all the connections to expand my program in trainings to learn how to, create a business from scratch. And then I'm still doing, some telehealth. And now I'm working in a wellness center in a brick and mortar to provide therapy, just so that I can, continue to pay bills until all of the coaching takes off the way I want it to. So I feel like I'm still going. But I also have found time for self-care, in regards to, I've included, my own meditations. I've included every morning starting with a tapping session. I've included, an exercise class that I go to, or taking a walk. Just being available for my own kids. There's days that I have to take, that I don't do anything in the home because I'm, like my mom, has an eye disease that has required surgeries. And so I have taken, days off where I'm sitting in the waiting room all day because of a procedure. Or if my kids say, Mom, I have this, can you help me do this? I'm more available to helping them, where I wasn't before. They'd have to call me at the office if they had a question, or I'd have to take sick time to take my mom to appointments. And so now so there is still go, but I'm finding that I'm fulfilling my schedule with things that are good for me.
Oh, that's great. That's absolutely amazing. How did you find EFT? How did you find tapping? And what was the process of like, this is interesting, versus, and then incorporating it into your own, let alone introducing it to your clients?
Yeah. So I've always been interested in other ways to regulate our emotional system, our nervous system, because it's not just the cognitive process that's going to help us change. It's also regulating that system. And what does that look like? Sometimes it involves breath work. Sometimes it does just involve, yoga. And, I also do some cardio work. But then I've been seeing the tapping. And so I attended a training and I was like, oh, I really like this. And it's an easy process to teach if people are open to it. And so I really just went to a training not too long ago. And then I really enjoyed what I heard about it and started, I'm going to have it involved in my coaching, where I will be able to do a session with clients through a coaching call. And then I just do it every morning for myself, just to get myself regulated for the day.
And talk about that. What's the science behind it? And then what have you noticed since starting it, and then where you are today as far as, using it on a daily practice?
Yeah. So, I mean, the science behind it is really, it goes back to, 2,000 to 5,000 years, because it's based really on kind of like that acupuncture without the needles. It's meeting all of the meridians in our body that kind of regulate, so there are certain parts of our body that says, okay, this part is for our emotions. This part is for, so I've seen, it helped. I started using it. I was waking up with a neck crank, and I did it the one day, and I really released the pain, talked about, the pain part of, and as I tapped, and then the next day I woke up and I was like, oh, my neck doesn't hurt. So that's really how it helped me realize that, oh, there's really backing to this, that it helps. And it really is just meeting those parts of our body, all of the parts that, like the acupuncture parts that kind of go into regulating our system.
And so for people that don't know what EFT tapping is, can you kind of briefly explain what you mean meridian, and because, well, I know, but so you tap, hand under your eyes, here, here. I think I'm remembering properly, like I said.
So I start with the karate chop. So I start with, the hand, and typically I will repeat that for a few sessions, and I'll say, something,
even though I feel very stressed out, I am actually calm. It's the actual feeling, and then the reverse, like the what you want, right?
right.
Am I remembering this
Yeah.
properly? Thank
Yes.
you.
Yes. I mean, some people do it just all the like, yeah, even I am in pain, I'm okay. Like looking at like a nuisance, like grocery shopping, even though I hate grocery shopping, I will be okay. Grocery shopping is a pain, but I will make it through. And then so it's karate chopping, and then the top of the head is my order, and I kind of work my way down, and it's right above the eyebrow, next to it, underneath the eye, like the cheekbone area,
Yeah.
and underneath the nose,
Here.
underneath the lip, the collarbone, then underneath your arm. And then I end with, some people don't do this one. This one's a newer one, is where they end with their chest, and they kind of like just hold and then they tap the top of their hand on their chest.
Yeah, that is new. I didn't know that one.
Yeah, that was newer.
Something
the one
I can teach my therapist.
Learned from my trainer, but they all end, some tapping will end with the top of the head. They'll start with everything else and end with the head. The one that I went to, the trainer, it was tapping the chest area.
Yeah, that's fascinating. It really is fascinating. I don't know why I'm so resistant to it, but
and then there's and there's different techniques, like so if that one didn't work after like 2 rounds, typically what I will ask is, like, what is the pain like? If it's anxiety, like what is, the level that you're feeling, like rate it from 0 to 10. And then after 2 rounds of tapping, I'll ask what the number feels like then. And then if it hasn't decreased, then I may then include some eye movement, where it's, just, looking down at the floor, and then we kind of gradually move up, and then we do another round of tapping. So it kind of just resets. Sometimes it needs to reset our our nervous system. And there's another one where we can cross our legs and intertwine our fingers for so many minutes to kind of reset too, because sometimes we just need to reset the nervous system to accept the tapping.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll have to look into the crossing the legs and intertwining the fingers. I haven't seen that one before. I've done the bilateral, stimulation, of course, breath work. I love a good vagus nerve session. And you guys, it doesn't have to be crazy. Like, you could hum. You could literally sing and get your nervous system to calm down, because that vagus nerve gets stimulated through your singing, through your humming of the voice box, and it has no choice but to have the parasympathetic nervous system come in and chill. So if you're stressed out, sing. That's like one of the easiest, fastest, cheapest ways to chill. Sing. Which I absolutely love, because I was a huge choir nerd in high school. So I'm all for it. I am all for it. So in your coaching, and I, practice, because you are dual therapist coach, which I think is absolutely phenomenal for your clients, because for just coaches, me in particular, I'm keenly aware of the line between coaching and therapy. And I know there are some coaches out there that aren't so great at honoring the line. And there's been some, what should I say here? Some tension between coaches and therapy because of that reason. And I absolutely get it. Absolutely get it. I understand. So it's great for your clients, because there's no line. There's lines, but that line doesn't exist, and you can interweave and dog, whatever you got to do to help them. And so you help women now with that have anxiety in the workplace and home, because how you do one thing is how you do all. That is a coaching foundation, period. What are some, you listed some things like muscle cramps, headache, irritable. What maybe is the most surprising side effect of anxiety that a lot of women in particular, because women are different than men biologically, and please, my them, theys, hays, I'm not excluding you, but biologically there is a difference. And so I can't speak to that. And I'm so sorry that I don't know, but traditional research has showed biologically men and women handle stress differently. And so for women, it shows up differently. And there's not a lot of research as women in the whole medical field, period. And so what is something surprising that is attributed to anxiety that maybe women don't know because it's not spoken in the ethos as, oh, this is a symptom of anxiety in women?
To be honest, in my work, I haven't seen anything very surprising to me, and typically what I've seen is IBS symptoms, and sleep deprivation, and headaches and the muscle tensions, and some will have told me about blurry vision. Oh,
that's interesting.
Yeah, that would probably be the most interesting one that has been brought to my attention. But it's the IBS symptom, they'll get diagnosed with IBS because they have stomach issues and they may go to, a doctor for the stomach issues, but underlying all that is anxiety.
Do you know about the eyesight correlate? Like, I get the IBS, but do you know about the eyesight? That's strange. That's really interesting.
Yeah. The only thing I can think of is it goes back to the nervous system.
That would make sense. Some weird secondary ones I've heard are like your hair, like hair loss.
Yeah.
Which is not something that we would equate to anxiety. But think about the circle, right? So anxiety changes the chemicals because your cortisol, your DHEA, like all your adrenals are jacked, and some of those actually hold your hair to your head.
Yeah. Most of my clients have been stomach ache, like the whole GI stuff, and higher blood pressure, obviously, and rapid heartbeat. Currently, I have a lot of clients that, and I think COVID kind of created this more, what we're seeing, health anxiety. So we get a symptom of something and then we start overthinking about it. And then we go to the doctor thinking there's something wrong, and then nothing is wrong. And then we go back because we're still having the symptoms, or the symptoms are getting worse, and they keep going back to the doctors, and they go through, all these tests and find out that there's nothing wrong. But then they get themselves in that vicious cycle, like, well, they can't find anything. There's got to be something. Maybe, do I have this? And do I have that? And then they'll Google it. And then they start doing all this vicious cycle because their symptoms are indicating that they have something wrong. And then they keep overthinking that. So I've definitely seen an increase of health anxiety. And that's what we call it too. Even in the world here, is that there's no actual diagnosis in it as in the DSM-5 of health anxiety, but that's kind of what doctors are calling it, is that, like, you have health anxiety, like you need to deal with your anxiety because there's nothing physically wrong with you.
I had a friend check out of the hospital because like 3 weeks ago, she was having trouble breathing, and she had already had stents put in her heart last year. So we already knew that, she'd had some blockages, and they wanted to keep her overnight, and she checked herself out because she didn't want to get COVID. And I was like, you've lost your goddamn mind. Get back in the hospital. And so last weekend, she went back, called the ambulance again because she couldn't breathe and her back hurt. And so they got in, and Friday she was like, they want to keep me. And I said, if you do not stay in that hospital, you're going to you're going to deal with me. Stay in the hospital. I don't care if you wear triple masks. I don't care if you catch COVID. We need to figure out what's going on. And sure enough, one of those stents had collapsed and she was 90% blocked. And I was like, girlfriend, if you had checked yourself out, you'd be dead on the floor.
Right.
Because you didn't want to catch COVID. Like, gotta weigh one out here. So exactly. I absolutely know that's true. I see it. My oldest was born without an immune system. He has common variable immunodeficiency. And the amount of neuroses that I developed from his 0 year of life to 5 about his health, him touching things, people being around, I never anticipated. I'm not a neurotic person. I just am not that kind of anxious. I have performance anxiety as that, that goes, but I'm just not generally anxious. Boy, let me tell you, the amount of dysregulation that I developed and the anxiety that I developed around his condition and what we were doing and who was doing what and what the doctors, plus I had to be the go-between for all the doctors. It's a high level of stress. And why I coach women now is because I lost myself in that role of not only just, wife and daughter and sister and employee and friend, but mother and caretaker. And I didn't know who I was without a relation to somebody else. Right. And that led to a very, very lonely existence, even though I was married, very lonely existence. And I beat the crap out of myself internally because on the outside, I had everything I needed or wanted. I was the American dream, 2 kids, 2 dogs, 2 cars, beautiful house, job, friends, whatever. And I was fucking miserable, absolutely miserable. And I thought something was wrong with me, that I was just so ungrateful. And I just absolutely, my negative self-talk was off the charts. And I've been able to quell it by about 80%, which is life-changing.
Right.
Yeah, right. Life-changing. And continues every day. And I think you'll agree with me that through healing others, you also heal yourself. Because I don't know how many times I've been in session and my client will be talking and I'll say something and they'll go, oh, wait. That was for me. I mean, it could be for you too, but that was also for me. So I'm going to own that one. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. And I recognize that, as I'm teaching the skill, I'm practicing it myself, so, because part of my coaching program, I do the recorded trainings. And then I will have a coaching call in relation to, and then the women can ask questions about the recorded trainings or something that they need to be coached on. And I'm recognizing that, I'm maybe using that skill again myself or, Yep.
Yeah. Or it's a great reminder of like, oh yeah, that's right. Because I'm sure in 20 years, you've learned more modalities than you remember right now. Right.
Right.
And so, that coming up, you're like, oh, I do know that technique, or I do know that modality, or I do know that affirmation. And it's amazing through teaching how it just reminds me. And I'm just so appreciative because it has been instrumental in my healing. I mean, in addition to my therapist, and she knows I love her. But I credit her with getting me some really, really dark times. But coaching has been a boost to what she has been able to help me through and instill in me and teach me too. And so, it's been an amazing process being able to hold space for others. It's such an honor. It's such an honor. Really, really is. What's been surprising about your own journey as far as maybe healing or insights?
So I recognize that how much, even when my kids were born, I had both my girls were premature. One was in the hospital a lot longer with tubes and intubation, and,
I know that one.
recognized now, and after she came home again, the illnesses, worrying about everybody. And then just recognizing now, like, how much I overthought things in the past about things that I had no control over. And so recognizing, how unhealthy excessive worrying about things that you can't control can really impact, just your decisions that you make. It can affect, my relationships. I was, now that I am home more and I'm more available to my kids, I recognize that, like, when I was tired and burnt out, how snappy I may have been with them. And so recognizing, and so I've been able to recognize that, like, how anxiety affected. And I never felt myself as an anxious person because I didn't walk around with, like, that beating heart.
Something's going to happen. Somebody's going to break in. Like, none of that.
Like, at work, I was a great problem solver. Crisis could happen 3-4 a day, and I would just manage it. But then as soon as I get home, I'd be like, one question being asked, and I'd be yelling. And and then I'm like recognizing that's what anxiety is that, like, I was worried about those decisions that I made at work or how it could affect other people's lives. And then I carried it home. But then again at home, I would always recognize that, like, I second guessed, when asked, always, and my husband at the time, his approval for a decision, and then feeling guilty about decisions. So now I'm recognizing that. And so, and now I feel like I'm a more confident decision maker.
And a calm mom.
And calmer mom. Yeah.
Calm mom. Yeah, calmer. I don't know. There's such thing as completely calm. I mean, something to strive for, but I don't know that exists.
Right.
How has that affected your relationship with your girls? Recognizing that you were a snappy mom due to the level of stress that you were carrying and ruminating about it. Because I know my boys are 16 and 18, and we've had some really hard discussions lately about my impact on them as children because I was snappy, because I used to be a yeller. And we had an incident last night. I hadn't been that woman in a long, long time. And she came out last night, and I'm not proud of it. And it made it very difficult for me to sleep. Those patterns don't go away. They don't go away. No matter how many years you've done it the right way, that person still exists in there. And boy, she came out last night, and that was rough. But I do have the relationship with the kids where they can say to me, like, this is not okay. This is not good. Right. And I know that not every parent has that. And so how have you seen your relationship change with your girls now that you have this self-awareness of, okay.
Well, I think our relationship really did have to change after my husband passed, because I'm the only one they can come to. So it kind of changed, I think, naturally because of that. But before, they knew, like, sometimes they could just go to dad. Mom's going to snap, so I'll just let dad deal with it. So they would ask him, maybe something. But now, and we've had conversations where, like, I did probably, snap at you guys more than I should have. And I really do try to, have that, now that I have that self-awareness, and I really try to help them. But, our relationship kind of naturally changed because they really didn't have a second person to bounce things off of. But they also recognized, they've also told me that because I was already doing some work in regards to self-awareness and things prior to him passing, I didn't have to work with a grief coach long. I kind of attended a couple of her workshops and and then I was like, oh yeah, you do have that tool in your box. Bring it back out and use it. And my kids really have been very appreciative of that, it didn't take me long to get my emotional, to get regulated again. And because I didn't spend days and days and days in bed. I went back to life. I did, because I worked in a school, I was naturally off already for 2 weeks because he passed at Thanksgiving. So it kind of, there was like, so I ended up having pretty much 2 months off before going back to work. Because with my stepfather passing away, I already had a week off, and then my mom got sick, and I had, so that kind of things kind of like, so I had 2 months off basically. And so then when I went back to work, they have said to me, Mom, we're so glad that like you didn't just barricade yourself in your room, because they've experienced other friends of mine who husbands had passed, and they had either spent a lot of time in their room, ignored going places, or turned to negative coping strategies of unhealthy.
Yeah.
And so I think they were appreciative that I had those tools, and I kind of just had to unbury them and realize that I needed to use them again. And take the dust off the toolbox and start using them again. So I think that kind of brought us closer too, was that they recognize that, like, or they've said, like, we appreciate that you became present and you were able to help us, get through that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. I just can't even imagine that. The loss of my brother was so devastating. I can't imagine all of that. So your stepfather, your mom getting sick, and then husband, that is whew, that is a lot. That is a lot.
Yeah.
So we've kind of just touched on the different kinds of anxiety and things that we really didn't realize that were anxiety, but were. And so what would be some of those things of, like, snapping it's a symptom. It's a red flag of, like, you're experiencing anxiety, because I think most women go, well, I'm stressed out, or I'm tired, or these kids, or whatever, but they don't really realize that it's anxiety because they're not worried about, like, the world falling down. I think that that's the traditional, it's Chicken Little, and it's actually so much more than that.
Right. Second guessing, women, like, or even just being at work, and then you like have a meeting and you walk into the meeting, you realize, oh my gosh, I forgot the notes that I need for my meeting. Like, because our brains are just so many places at so many times that we're not really concentrating on everything. That tends to be one of the symptoms that I see, is just this kind of, I don't want to call it like scattered brain, because that's not really what it is. It's just that we get more forgetful. Maybe we get kind of like this brain fog sometimes. We're not able to clear. And then second, like I said, second guessing ourselves, almost that reassurance piece. I hear that often. I've heard that from most recently, is that, their marriage is struggling because the woman is just constantly asking for reassurance.
Yeah. Oof. The one that comes to mind that I know was a red flag for me, that I didn't know for many, many years, is driving someplace and not remember, like, getting there and not remembering the drive.
Yeah.
Because I was just yada, 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 yada. I got to go here and I got to go there, and I need milk and I need eggs, and then there's doctor's appointment, and it's the mental load, but like, ruminating on the mental load versus going, oh yeah, I need to make a doctor's appointment. Let me write that down, or let me do it now, or whatever. But it was like it's the running list.
Yeah.
That is anxiety, and it's disguised as, well, this is what it takes to run a household. That's not exactly true. Would you speak on that for me, Stacey?
The running list that we have. Yeah.
And how it's anxiety in a kind of a different package, right?
Right. Yeah. I think a lot, again, women are different than men. And so and especially if we are a mom, a wife, we're working, we have all these different hats that we wear. And then they all are, we're thinking about, so we come home and we're thinking about like, okay, that meeting, I didn't like the way that meeting went. What can I do differently? But then I'm also cooking dinner. And then, our kids might need, help on a homework assignment. So we have all these compartments. So part of anxiety is that we get kind of that overwhelmed feeling like we cannot, catch a break, or so I help compartmentalize, how we have to kind of separate each of our different parts of our hats. Even though they may intertwine, but then, it's just kind of building. We think we're organized because we're getting them done, but it's always in our head kind of. And so actually being, writing a list, I have lists everywhere on my desk, personal list and then work list. And so,
But writing it down, does it alleviate the ruminating on the list if you just write it down and be like, okay, here's the list. I wrote it on the list. The list is right here. Let me get the list out of I don't need to think about the list because the list is here instead. It doesn't need to be here.
So sometimes it does help, if we make a list, but then sometimes if I catch myself, one thing that I teach too is if I catch myself during the workday thinking about something that I cannot do right then, I tell myself, stop. I literally will tell my brain, stop. I can't do anything about that now. I will deal with that, whatever,
Yeah.
I create what I do a lot of times too, is I do a worry dump, because a lot of times we carry all these things in our head about things that we're worried about, and we are trying to solve them in our brain. We're thinking and thinking and thinking, and we're trying to do what we're doing and not necessarily maybe concentrating on what we're doing. So I create what I call as a worry dump, and I write everything down that I'm worried about. And then I will, cross off the things that I know that they may have been something that happened in the past. I can't do anything about it. It happened. So cross it off the list. And if there's things on the list that are like very futuristic, I ask myself, I'll just kind of do things like, can I do anything about that now? Or how much control do I have over that? Is there any proof that this is going to happen? And focus on the things that I really need to focus on. But if I catch myself worrying about something like that, maybe on that worry dump, I will tell my brain, stop. I have a worry time, or I will deal with that when it comes. I'm not going to do anything about it now. I will give my brain permission of when we're going to have a worry dump, and so that does help too, is just recognizing that we can be in control of our thoughts. A lot of times we don't think we are, because it's in our brain and we can't control our brain, but no, we do. We can control our brain, and we can control what we're thinking. And so a lot of times I will say to myself, you can't control that right now. Let's worry about that during whatever time that I have dedicated as my worry time. And then if it's on the list already, I say, okay, we have a plan for that. We will deal with that when it comes.
Yeah, there's a couple of, sorry.
There's a lot of questions that I will ask myself, when it comes to that list.
Yeah, I love the first, like, is it real? Is this true? That's always one of the very first things, especially with negative self-talk, right? I personally use the stop sign. So when I catch the inner critic, I would picture a stop sign, and then like not try to reframe it, not try to say it's not true, just literally catch it. Because that's, to me, and from what I know from my clients, that's actually the hardest part. Yes. Is catching it, because we're not so present to our thoughts. So being more mindful, being more present in your brain. What is this thing, this mushy meatball? What is it going off about? Because it doesn't need to, but its job is to keep us safe. regardless of where it finds the danger. It could find the danger at the grocery store versus a tiger. It's the same in that brain, in that part of your brain. If you stress out about the grocery store, it's the equivalent to being chased by a tiger. Your brain doesn't know the difference that, Walmart is not actually hell. I mean, it is actually hell, but not that kind of hell. So I love the stop analogy, stop sign. So absolutely. And then the other one is worry time. And I do know this technique. Thank you for bringing again. And I do have my clients set a worry time that's actually kind of absurd. So then they go, literally, I'm really going to wait till 9 to 9:15 at night to worry about all the things from 8 a.m. this morning. That doesn't make sense. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't make sense. What do you want to do with this? However, where setting a time has benefited me, especially in my grief with my brother, is like, set a timer and just lose it. If you're going to lose it then for that 15 minutes or whatever. And then the timer ends, compose yourself and move. Otherwise, you're going to stay in that crisis state all the time. And your body loves homeostasis. So your body wants to stay the same all the time. And it gets used to that crisis mode. And this causes massive, massive issues later. And so that was my therapist. She was like, if you know you're still losing it every day and you can't, so you set a timer, not a designated time, but if you're experiencing it, set a timer and just lose it. And then, move on. And so, yeah, now when it comes, cause it comes differently now, it's almost 8 years later.
Right.
Now, instead of like suppressing it and saying, oh, I don't have time for you. I'll pull over on the side of the road. If that's what it has to, if I'm driving and a wave hits me out of nowhere, I'll pull over on the side of the road because I just got to honor it, because pushing it down does not work at all. So I love the designated time or a designated time frame, minutes wise, setting a timer to do that, and set a timer. If you're going to do worry time, worry time between 9 and 9:15, set the timer and worry away, till your little heart's content, but only for those 15 minutes and only at 9 o'clock at night.
Right.
And then it's like,
what? And I also tell them to write it down. Don't just keep it in our thoughts, because a lot of times once we get it again, it's that, again, releasing. It's that that kind of regulating our system, is that we're getting it out on paper. And then that way it's more black and white. We can cross off the ones that sometimes once we see it, we're like, why am I even thinking about that? That is ridiculous. Cross that off, get rid of it. And then move on to the next one. Because a lot of times we just keep them all in our head. And then when we get triggered by an event or a situation during the day or somebody's comments, it brings that thought to the forefront. And then we start that vicious cycle of overthinking it. And so, I will tell them, write it down, write everything down and give yourself that time to, recognize if the thought is needed to be a part of your life. Do we need to worry about it right now?
And is it something that is a viable concern?
Right.
Or is it just, again, your brain wants to be busy, so it makes up fantastical stuff. It makes up its own fairy tales.
Oh, it does. It does. Yeah.
It's just, in this instance, it's not so fun fairy tales. Not so fun fairy tales.
Right.
So talk about your anti-anxiety blueprint and your coaching programs. What does it look like to work with you?
So when women join me, they will take a wellness survey to kind of see where their anxiety is, and how is it affecting their life. And then once they join my program, it's a 12-week program. They receive guided, education trainings, recorded with worksheets that are based on the topic that I'm teaching that time. So they'll get a PowerPoint, my recorded training, and then worksheets that will kind of help them with the practice that I'm teaching. And then we have 1 to 2 coaching calls a week via Zoom. And the way I run those is that I will record them so that people that are in the group, if they weren't able to attend the group call, they can have access to it. And the way I do the group is that everybody that is in the call that day, they will punch a 1 in the chat. And so if they want to ask a question, they will, if their 1 is there, then I will, unmute them and have them talk about what they want to talk about, and I'll coach them through that. And then, so the anti-anxiety blueprint is all the trainings that I kind of teach throughout the 12 weeks. It is all of that. So I do some of this teaching about our thoughts. I teach self-care. So I have yoga instructors that join us every once in a while. I'll do the EFT. I'll do a session on EFT. I will also include time management. Trying to think of the 12 weeks of modules that I do. A lot is the first session is, just recognizing our feeling, and again, not suppressing it. A lot of times we've been taught in our life that, in all those other kind of things when we were going through elementary school, like they would teach us a feeling and they'd teach you a coping skill, which was great. It helped us maybe not feel anxious at the moment. But really what we need to do is recognize that feeling, allow our bodies to sit with that feeling, recognize that it's just a feeling. The feeling is not going to hurt us. It's typically the thought that's behind the feeling that is really the trigger. And that's what's kind of continuing us to feel this way. So I do some teaching about sitting with the feelings, really recognizing them, the cognitive kind of changing the concepts and the thoughts that we do, the self-talk, the getting out of that negative loop, doing the stop signs, the worry dumps. Like I said, time management, the self-care. So that's kind of everything that's in my anti-anxiety blueprint. And then after the 12 weeks, they take a post survey. And as long as they've been attending the groups and doing the education, if their numbers haven't decreased in their post survey, they can continue to be in the program. And if their numbers have decreased, that's what we want. And so they'll kind of graduate on to like maybe a once a month check-in, or they can add on additional services if they feel that they need it.
I love that you do that in a group setting, because what I know to be true from the women in my life is we think we're the only ones.
Right.
I think we're the only ones struggling the way we do, that nobody else will understand because they're not in their head, and they don't have their life, and like whatever the story is, that again, those are the inner critics. Those are the saboteurs trying to hang on for dear life. Those
Right.
are old defense mechanisms that don't serve you in your adulthood. I get it. I understand. They're liars. You are
Right.
not that special in that aspect, my friends. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but I mean that as in you are never the only one.
Right. Well, and what I like about the coaching, the group process is if you are, again, we're anxious women and we feel that our question may be stupid. And so then when someone else asks a question, again, we start to feel like, oh, then maybe that my question isn't as stupid. And I will remind everybody when we jump on, no question is stupid. No question is little. Ask what you want, because we're all learning from each other, and that's what I like about the group process too, is that because I don't have anybody can join at any time. So I could start off this month with 2 people starting the group and then continue to join people, and we learn from each other. So I may be in week 5 of the program, but someone from week 1 is listening to what I have to say. So they're learning along the way. And I could be a silent member the whole time and may never speak or never ask a question, but I'm learning from what other people are saying.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my favorite part about group coaching is that the group becomes like a co-facilitator for you.
Right.
Um, and that normalization of, okay, I'm not the only one. And maybe they're feeling poorly about um their their night as a mother, and they go, and then the other mothers go, oh girl, I've been there. And then you're like, okay, I'm not a piece of shit. That's good. And tomorrow's another day, Scarlett. And so that's exactly why I love group, and I actually prefer group coaching for that reason. Not that I don't love my one-on-one clients, I absolutely do. But there is just a different dynamic in the group that yeah, I love it because there's that strength in numbers, for
Mhm.
sure. So if somebody wanted to work with you, Stacey, it's so weird saying my own name to somebody else. It's so weird. It's very meta. It's kind of weird. How would they get a hold of you? And yeah, like how would they get a hold of you? Where would they find you if they wanted to follow you, learn more, all of that kind of good stuff?
Yeah. So on Instagram, I'm Stacey Johnson Coaching. And then on Facebook, I am the same thing as Stacey Johnson Coaching. And my email is stacy@staceyjohnsoncoaching.com. And those would probably be the best ways to find me. And if they had a question, either email me or messenger through Facebook.
Yeah, beautiful. You guys, it's all going to be linked below. You already know, because that's the thing to do. So all of her information will be in the description. Go check her out. If you recognize yourself in any of these, if you're a snippy mom, if you're one that drives to the grocery store or to work and you don't remember getting there, if you have, children who maybe have been preemies, maybe have medical issues, maybe they're neurodivergent, because that's a whole other stressor. I have 2 boys that are neurodivergent, and guess what? I was just recently diagnosed. Shocker. And so I don't know how I thought I escaped. I don't know. But here we are. And then I look back at the diagnosis and I look back and I go, oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay. I just look back in my whole teenage years and like, oh yeah. So because again, it presents differently in women than men, and
Right.
not a lot of study and research are done on women. So of course, I didn't get diagnosed till 46. Of course. So go check her out if any of this resonates with you, or maybe you don't know. Maybe you want to pick her brain about, is she the coach therapist for you? Is this program for you? Because you're not clear. Is this anxiety or not? Go see.
Yeah.
I'm sure,
Yes,
I'm sure she won't mind.
Yeah, I offer a free consult call to, if there are women out there that are on the fence of is this really anxiety? In fact, I met with someone right before I came on this call, was I've never been diagnosed. I don't know if this is really what this is. And I, talked about, what the symptoms I was hearing her share with me. And I said, I do believe you could benefit from the program in regards to what you're sharing with me. And I told her everything that the group would offer her.
Yeah.
So, I do offer one free consult call to see if the program would be a good fit. And not everybody that comes to me has to be diagnosed with anxiety, because I'm not, yes, I am a therapist and I can diagnose, but that's not the role of the program. The role of the program is to help decrease the symptoms that you're having.
Right. Exactly. So you guys go book that connection call and just see. Like she said, you don't have to be formally diagnosed. Just and maybe you don't even know it's anxiety again. But if you're running lists and you're having trouble sleeping and you got a lot of neck tension or headaches, I woke up emotionally hungover from our row yesterday. So I've definitely got a tension headache still today, and it's right here. So if that resonates with any of you, go check her out. Stacey, thank you for joining me and
You're welcome.
your first podcast.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That is amazing. I cannot wait to see what you do with this beautiful coaching career. Welcome to the club, and you're in a more special club because you are a therapist coach, which is just amazing. And yeah, best wishes.
Thank you
You
so
guys,
much.
oh my gosh, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. You guys do the YouTubey things. Y'all already know. Look, I'm rubbing my jaw because it really was bad. I woke up with a sore jaw this morning.
You probably clenched
Go
your
do.
teeth during the night and you don't even
Oh
know it.
yeah. Oh no, they like I could feel it this morning. I could
Yeah.
feel my teeth were like throbbing. So I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, God. So there'll be a lot of deep breathing later today. Faux show. Do all the YouTubey things, like, subscribe, comment. If you've got questions for Stacey, I will let her know that they've come through so she can come and answer them. Share this with a woman in your life that maybe you could think benefit from that. You never know. If somebody that you love sounds like what we've been talking about, send this to them and just say, hey, I love you. Here's some resource. See if you find yourself. I interviewed a doula and a doula therapist, a birth coach therapist yesterday, and she talked about obstetric violence and birth trauma. And I had never heard those terms before when she started talking, and I was like, well, I'll be damned. I'll be damned. And then I started thinking about the other women in my life. And so I actually texted my sister-in-law and I said, I think you could benefit from this. And so I sent it to her. So there's, yeah, y'all, that's a possibility. You could do
Right.
that.
Right.
For
sure.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, go follow Stacey, go connect with her, see if she can help you. And thanks for being here, you guys. I just want to remind you, it literally takes just a few short minutes a day to rewire your brain for a more positive life. You just have to be present, self-aware, have insight. And if you need support doing that, there are people like us out there. And so come take us up on it because this is what we absolutely love to do. And so thank you. Thank you for joining me. And I'll see you guys next time. I love y'all.